The defendant has pled guilty to aggravated murder, unclassified felony. We are here today for the sentencing in the matter.
All right, you have been convicted or pled guilty to a qualifying violent offender offense. If you are not sentenced to a prison term, which you will be in this case, it's mandatory, you will be required to enroll in the violent offender database personally with the sheriff of the county in which you reside 10 days after being sentenced. If you are sentenced to a prison term, you must enroll in the database personally with the sheriff of the county in which you reside 10 days after release from incarceration. Sign the document, Mr. Dorner. All right, line 11 is for me. It reads, I certify that I specifically informed the offender of his duties to set forth above, and he indicated to me an understanding of these duties. I'm going to place my signature on this line. All right, with that matter having been addressed, is there any reason not to go forward with sentencing at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Is there anything you would like to say at this point on behalf of your client?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. My words may ring hollow for many, but Mr. Dorner is extremely remorseful for his act. The court's going to hear this directly from Mr. Dorner momentarily, but I would like to take a moment to shed some light on him as a person and on what happened on April 12th. Mr. Dorner is a 53-year-old man with no prior acts of violence against anyone. He has some medical issues. He had a heart attack and a stent inserted back in 2013. This led to the discovery of an aneurysm, and within 3 months of that, he had to have surgery to correct that. Mr. Dorner is also OCD, and he suffers from depression. Currently, while incarcerated, he's receiving medication for his depression. Now, what happened on April 12th, Your Honor, is completely out of character for Mr. Dorner, even with the depression issues he suffers from. Never in a million years did Mr. Dorner think he'd be capable of doing such a heinous act against somebody, especially against somebody that he loves so dearly. Mr. Dorner met the victim, Ms. Debbie Moore, back in 2021 at a campground. They both shared a hobby of camping, and they soon began dating thereafter. During the last 9 months of their relationship, they lived together at Debbie's residence here in Concord. As with most relationships, Your Honor, they had their ups and downs, they had their arguments. Mainly, those stemmed from jealousy that each other had with regards to their respective past relationships. But Mr. Dorner loved Debbie very much. One of the other issues that caused arguments between them was the amount of time that Mr. Dorner spent taking care of his 2 children. During his marriage to his ex-wife, and even after their divorce, Mr. Dorner was the primary caregiver for his 2 children, who are now, they're still minors, but they're now teenagers, with regards to taking them to their various school activities, sports, things like that. And this took time away from his relationship with the victim. As such, they argued, but they always made up, and nothing ever rose to the level that it did on April 12th. They had been planning a trip together to Florida for quite some time, and on the morning of April 12th, Mr. Dorner was especially depressed because for the past couple of weeks they had been arguing more than they normally did. And that morning, they were having breakfast together when Debbie told Mr. Dorner that she had had enough, that she didn't want to deal with this anymore, and that she didn't want him to go on the trip to Florida. Now, Mr. Dorner didn't take this necessarily as a complete breakup, but he did snap when he heard this. And then he committed this horrific act. Mr. Dorner has stated that if there's any way he could take back what he did, he would do it. He simply cannot believe what he did. He paced around the house after this happened, Your Honor, for a couple of hours, and he decided that he was going to end his own life. He ended up texting his 2 children. He told them that he loved them very much. With regards to his son, he informed his son of some property that he had that he wanted him to have. And then Mr. Dorner proceeded to stab himself. He stabbed himself in the neck, in the arms, he slit his wrists, and then he crawled out into the garage where he intended to die. His children quite alarmed at the text they just received from their dad, so they went ahead and informed their mother, his ex-wife, Carol Lee. She's a registered nurse, but she immediately went over to Debbie's house where she discovered Mr. Dorner in the garage, and Mr. Dorner then proceeded to tell his ex-wife what he had done. She ended up calling 911. I know that nothing, Your Honor, no words, no punishment can ever bring back Ms. Moore to her children and her family. Mr. Dorner has accepted responsibility for his actions that day, and he is extremely remorseful for what he has done. Mr. Dorner has never exhibited any type of violent behavior in the past, and this was completely out of character for him. This court has a lot of discretion as to what it can do at sentencing this morning. We are asking this court to consider Mr. Dorner's conduct through his life too, not just on what happened on April 12th. We are asking this court to consider Mr. Dorner's age and his health conditions. We are asking this court to consider the fact that Mr. Dorner has taken full responsibility for his actions and that he is extremely remorseful. As far as the sentencing, Your Honor, we are asking this court to consider a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Dorner, you have the right to address this court before your sentence. You can say anything you want. Is there anything you want to say at this time?
Extremely.
Keep your voice up, please.
I'm sorry. And I'm extremely, from the bottom of my heart, sorry for what I've done in a beautiful person's life, away from her family and friends. I wish that day never happened. It shouldn't have. I'm just really, really, really sorry for what I've done. I feel horrible, and I'm sorry for all family members and friends for all the pain and suffering that I've caused in the loss of Debbie. I'm extremely sorry from the bottom of my heart.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to her whole family. 3 daughters, Courtney, Caitlin, and Paige. Sorry from the bottom of my heart taking your mom away from you. Sorry to her father, Don Moore, taking your daughter's life away from you. All family relatives. I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart taking her away from you. Sorry.
Anything else you'd like to say? You don't have to. I just want to make sure you've said everything you want to. Mr. Watson, anything else on behalf of the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Gretzky, on behalf of the state of Ohio?
Thank you, Your Honor. Family members of the victim would like to make statements to the court. Would you like them to come forward, or can they make statements from where they
You just
are?
hear from where they are. Whoever's going to speak, you can just stand right where it is that you're seated. Keep your voice up loud enough so we can all hear you, please. And then go ahead and say whatever it is you would like me to know. Take your time. If you could spell your last name, too, so the record will be clear on that.
Mireles, Mireles. My name is Courtney. I'm the oldest daughter of Deborah. My mother was an amazing woman. She was very loving. She was outgoing. She was caring, beautiful. It was so easy for her to make friends. She would light up a room with every soul. And she always focused on the needs of others. And she always wanted to protect the ones she loved and help them. She wanted everyone around her to feel comfortable and feel happy. And I believe that is what happened with Brian and Brian's children. She wanted them to feel comfortable and loved and happy. And in her heart, she wanted to welcome him into our family, and she wanted me to welcome him into our family. And I could see that very much so. I will never forget that night when I picked up the phone and I heard my sister screaming. I will never forget those screams of pain sister went through. She died April 12th. May 12th was Mother's Day, and June 15th was her birthday. Everything I knew about camp was gone. It was destroyed. I got married in December 2nd of 2023, I got married, and my mother was so beautiful and so happy. I surprised her with a mother-daughter dance, and she cried tears of joy. I had no idea how important those pictures would turn out to be. I had no idea that was the last time we would be together as a family, all of us together. I went on my honeymoon in March, and before I had the chance to see her again, my family was completely devastated. The heart of my family, the fabric and the backbone was gone, and I will never be the same. April 13th, there was a Facebook post about how my mother died before I even had the chance to find out for myself. The next few days were a blur, and my sisters and I collected her belongings and had to plan a funeral for her. We had to look at the blood of the man who murdered her over and over and over again in that garage. We had to go where she died over and over again, and during our final goodbye, I saw her for the last time, and I fell to my knees, crying. And I told her I loved her, and I would see her soon. I question if God is real. I have questioned if my life is worth living. I am terrified the rest of my family is going to die. And I've had dreams begging her not to go with him. A few days before Brian was officially indicted, or a few days in July, Brian was officially indicted, and the local news officially released her name. And I saw it on social media. I couldn't stand to look at the news. There were Facebook posts. Not a single one even mentioned that she was a mother of 3. That same week, my mom's autopsy report came back and her official death certificate. I've had my family's horror displayed, and I've had to live this over and over and over again, and I thought it would never end, and I'm hoping that today it will finally start to end and I can heal. It wasn't only one life that was affected by Brian's actions, it was multiple. And now a new generation is going to be affected. I'm pregnant with my first baby and her first grandchild. And my mom would be so happy. She really wanted to be a grandma. She would have been the best grandma and spoiling this baby already. She would be guiding me throughout my pregnancy and guiding me through my fears and anxiety. She'd be preparing a baby shower, telling me to finish my registry so she could surprise me. I can't share this experience with her, and she will never meet this baby as a result of Brian's actions. An angel is coming, and she will never get to meet the baby. My baby will not have a grandma. She won't be at the hospital with me. And she will miss my baby's birthdays and holidays. And yesterday I had a scare. I fell, and I couldn't call her to help me. And I don't have her to make sure I'm okay. I can't stand to hear about mother-daughter or baby events. I can't stand to see it. But I have had a dream where she's changing the baby's diaper. And I've had dreams where she's beautiful and happy. Now the holidays are here, the first of many with a giant emptiness in our hearts. And I read her autopsy report, and I believe barring any major illness or accident, she would have lived another 30 years or more. And I've heard Brian's words, I've heard his apology. And while I can appreciate that you are a human being, and while I do feel true empathy and pity and sadness for what happened, I'm very sad for who you turned out to be. And the reality is you should live with this chaos, just like the rest of us. My sister and I are going to a concert tonight that my mother wanted to share with you. And I've asked the judge to consider giving you 30, life with 30 after, or life without parole. The effects of his actions will be this long, if not longer. He will never get to meet Grandma because of these actions.
I'm going to have you state your name, all right, and spell your last name.
Yes, Moore, M-O-O-R-E, Caitlin,
The C or K?
K-A-I-T-L-I-N.
All right, take your time, Caitlin. Say whatever you want me to know.
And I brought a picture as well of my mom with us three.
Okay.
On April 12th, 2024, my mother, Deborah Moore, was the senseless murder victim of Brian K. Dorner's possessive cruelty. That day, I had told my roommate, I guess Mom hasn't responded to anyone in a few hours. She was probably murdered or something. That was the dark joke that I made whenever someone hadn't responded to me in a while. That was the joke that I made as I sat at the end of my bed in Los Angeles, California, waiting for news on what was going on with my mother. I was helpless, unable to go check on her myself. I figured she's probably napping and her phone died, or maybe she's out at the camper and is in an area with no service. Oh, maybe everyone's worried for no reason. But Paige is going to check up on her to make sure. Whatever's going on, we'll fix it. We always do. I don't make that joke anymore. It's not as humorous as it used to be. Every night when I go to bed, my memories from that evening become a distorted record spinning on a turntable, the needle endlessly scratching the center. All time is lost. My current reality fades from recognition. I see the moment when I answer my aunt's call. I hear her voice telling me, "She's dead, honey. I'm so sorry, she's dead." I feel the pause in my throat. My first thought, Patty's joking. The second, she's not joking. She wouldn't joke like this. I hear me yell to her, "No, Patty, no, please no. No, don't tell me that. Don't say that. Please no." I picture blood. I picture my little sister sobbing on the ground. I picture my mother's lifeless body. How cold and alone she must be, unable to have died at an old age within the warmth and love of her children. How badly I wanted to hug my mother, regardless of the state she was in, because no matter what she looked like or what the scene was, she was still my mother. What monster would do this to her? The psychological impact of Brian K. Dorner, hereby referred to as the monster, wrapping his arm around my mother's throat goes beyond the hours I've lost, sitting in random places, my brain unable to unlatch from the order of the events in which her death occurred. The feeling of this loss is unbearable. It manifests as sadness, rage, and an emptiness, a terrible emptiness. A realization that I am stuck in a timeline that refuses to move any direction but onward, with an emptiness that does not tug at my heartstrings. No, instead it claws out my liver and pancreas and gallbladder. It gnaws through every organ of my stomach and chest as a mouse would a cable, plaguing every night of sleep. No matter how much I try to scrape out every drop of pain, I am left wishing I could scream and vomit to force the feeling to abandon me. It refuses to leave. This miserable emptiness is a curse given to me by none other than Brian K. Dorner. This monster didn't just kill my mother. He strangled my #1 fan, who supported me through thick and thin. He suffocated my best friend, who I called every day on my way to work. He stole 30 years of memories that she had left to live with her children. Now, only pictures of her will sit at our Thanksgiving table, a future wedding, at the birth of her future grandchildren. Pictures, old memories, and what-ifs will fill her seat in hope that her love lingers. I have dreams of my mother. Sometimes they're peaceful, where she's holding my hand and telling me how proud she is of me. Others are cruel, where she's become the living dead, and her body is deteriorating before my eyes. I shouldn't have to picture my mother this way. This waste of space, whose name fills my mouth with filth and disgust, had once demanded that we accept him. His narcissism demanded that we respect him and show him the attention he thought he deserved. a red flag to his true character that I mistakenly missed. I, the only child of Deborah Ann's, who accepted him into her life, must live with this regret. I had thought he's tolerable because he made her happy. I thought he was going to take care of her. I trusted him to respect her and to help provide my mother with the life that she deserved. This monster didn't deserve her. His way of taking care of my mother and thanking me for accepting him into her life was to murder her. Now I feel the legs of roaches crawling over my skin when I recall the times that he hugged me and gave me a side kiss on the cheek, pretending as if I were the good kid for accepting him. How uncomfortable those times were, but how I dealt with this discomfort all to make my mother happy. Now I wish I hadn't made her happy with this. Now I wish that I was there with her on April 12th, attending the Easter egg hunt that she was so excited to go to that evening. She knows I would have gone with her, because those were the kinds of things that we did when I was home. Fun, random activities like running from geese in the middle of the park or garage sailing on summer Thursdays. I miss my mom. She was 19 when she had me, and now I recognize as an adult that we were two kids growing up together. We were constantly learning from each other and confiding about the hardships of life. He had no consideration for her life or her children, the children that he knew meant the world to her, and he still took her from them. If he couldn't have her, no one could. My mother's life was not his to take. He had no right. He did not own her. Yet he chose to kill her. From the moment he stepped into that room, he had his plan. And at any moment, he could have changed his mind. He chose not to. He chose to commit to this decision. He chose to make sure he succeeded. He chose to not save her from his own cruelty. He didn't stop. There was never an intention of stopping. Even after it had gone too far, he showed no attempt to resuscitate her, no attempt to call the police. He could have chosen to save her, and he didn't. He took what wasn't his to take and then tried to escape the consequences. Your Honor, I ask that we ensure this monster has no more choice, as he must bear the consequences of the choices he's already taken, the choices he's already made for my mother. I ask that he never be trusted again. I ask that no individual outside of prison is ever subjugated to his unpredictable temperament, and that no one ever has to feel the insurmountable emptiness and dread that now lives inside of me. I beg you, if not life in prison, then to please give him a minimum of 30 years. 1 year for every year that I should have had with my mother. The beautiful mother who I came home to for every holiday, whose embrace I loved, whose liveliness and support were everything I looked forward to in life. She was the hearth of our home, the home at which I can now barely stand in without an immense chill of loneliness hanging over me. This is the closest we can get to justice.
Thank you.
I'm the youngest daughter of Deborah Moore. I want to start off today with what I experienced on April 12, 2024. One phone call led me to my mom's house to check on her after her phone was off and no one had heard from her for a couple hours. That night will forever be etched into my brain. Running across the wet grass towards the condo she lived in, yellow tape everywhere, and an officer stopping me and not letting me through or telling me if my mother is okay until I confirmed who I am to her. Even then, he could only tell me she was dead. I remember at one point EMS coming up to me because I physically could not breathe because there was no way I could even comprehend this was true. That night, I had to be the one to make a call to one of my sisters, telling her our mother was gone and that it was him. Calling my father and telling him he has to come home and being forced to say that the woman he cared for and loved for 30 years is now gone. That night was a restless sleep, not knowing exactly how she died, since the officers weren't allowed to say, and having to wonder all night if she was laying up there in that moment, possibly in her own blood. All the worst possible images filled my brain for days until we got to know that the blood at least wasn't hers. But then we get to April 13th, the next morning. I find out just a little bit more information about her death from Facebook. I got to find out from a post from the sheriff saying she had been strangled or suffocated to death. And from that moment, more images filled my brain. When I'm awake, it's images of her laying in bed and fighting for her life, her nails clawing at his hands, trying to get him off of her, and Romeo, her dog, barking like crazy out of confusion. I had to go over 6 months without knowing exactly how my mother died. 6 months. that night wasn't traumatizing enough. I had to attempt to get through every day, working in the home that I once lived with her in, while I had images filling my head and affecting my emotional well-being every day, because I was questioning constantly what happened because we couldn't know all the details. Seeing policies come up at my job with the same first name as him and not being able to even function for 30 minutes after because of all of the rage and sadness that would consume me. Scrolling through Facebook and randomly coming across comments on a post about what happened and not knowing if they're true about our own mother because no one can confirm. But the thing is, when I go to sleep, the images don't stop. They follow me there. My dreams are regularly filled with different nightmares of someone choking me, running for my life, or me getting brutally murdered. It got to the point where I had to speak to a psychiatrist or something to try to make the images stop at night. But then I remembered my dreams are the only place I get to see her now, so I don't take those. But one thing I remember with those nightmares is I get to wake up. I get to open my eyes, take a breath of fresh air, and remind myself I am still breathing. It was only a dream. I get to live another day. My mom doesn't have that ability. He took that from her. Even with being in therapy since it happened, the shock still comes in waves. I'm only 24. She would have still lived a long life. I was still calling my mom for the simple things, like what temperature do I put my laundry on so I don't shrink my clothes. I'd send her pictures of my dinner and ask if she thinks the meat needs to be cooked longer. And I could have Googled those questions, but why would I do that when it was always just an excuse to call her and see what she's up to? And I knew she'd answer those questions every single time. I think it's important for you to know the woman she is and how she was truly the best mom. And I don't just mean the best mom to me or my sisters. She was truly a good person. She took care of everyone close to her in her life like they were her own daughters. She was the type of person who would give you her last $20 if you needed it. She was the type of person to sneak treats to the neighbors' dogs when they weren't looking. She was the mom who bought 5 different types of candy and made sure to tell all the kids who came trick-or-treating to make sure to grab a bunch from each container. She was the mom who would take her boyfriend's daughter to randomly go shopping or to take her to Starbucks with her. You could see she was a great woman. And you could see he said thank you to my mom for treating his daughter like one of her own by taking her life. I have so much anger that still comes in waves because I know he is nothing but a coward and a psychotic individual. He is dangerous. And dangerous in the way that you don't know when his emotions are going to flip and turn into some type of anger. He has proven and shown that he has no control over his actions or emotions, contrary to what he may say to get a shorter sentence. He is not empathetic over the life he has taken from my mother. He didn't feel sorry for what he did. I can say that because, as a reminder, this wasn't a faceless crime. She was not a stranger to him whose face we'll never remember or never see again. He didn't just murder her with his hands. He had to make sure she was absolutely dead with the pillow, too. You can't choke or suffocate someone in 2 different ways and claim you feel some type of remorse. This wasn't just a situation where she was just in the wrong place or wrong time. It wasn't an accident. He didn't accidentally reach for her throat and take the life out of her. She was in her safe place. She was at her home that she allowed him to live in with her. Time in jail does not heal violence that's inside of someone. Time does not change that he's a master manipulator. Time in prison doesn't change the person that he actually is and the person he's proven to be. Time does not bring my mom back. We will truly never know how many other times he had put his hands on her before April 12th, or how many other times he choked her and she was lucky enough to survive then. We will never know because she doesn't get the ability to be here and speak her side. And to be honest, he probably doesn't even know the answer, because that was only the first time it went just a little too far. But even I know that her making a statement along the lines of, "What are you going to do, choke me?" should tell you this wasn't the first time. Again, I'd like to mention I'm only 24 years old. I will be a little older than my mother was when he killed her if he gets the option for parole after even 25 years. In my lifetime, I shouldn't ever have to know that he's out there somewhere free, that there's even the smallest chance of me running into him anywhere. I shouldn't have to be re-traumatized anymore, having to go to parole hearings, even 20 years from now, for an individual who admitted to intentionally taking my mom's life. It's not fair to me or my family, and it's definitely not fair to my mom, who I didn't even get to say goodbye to. I do want him to know that I do not accept his apology. Camp was a happy place that I grew up there with her, and that was our family place. That trip to Florida was our family vacation that she was allowing him to go on. It wasn't something special they were planning together. The final thing I want to leave you with today is to please let this end. Please hold this individual fully accountable for his actions and sentence him to the maximum penalty with no option for parole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patty Lombardo, Lombardo. There are no words to describe the pain that you have caused me or to this entire family by taking the life of Debbie. She came into my home at age 2. She was raised as my baby sister. As adults, she was my best friend. And when my sister passed, I was her second mom. My loss is multifaceted, and nothing will ever fill that void. You've taken from Debbie her girls, which meant more to her than anything else in this world. She wanted nothing more than to be a good mother, and someday a doting grandmother. And now you've taken that away from her. As well as she will never know Courtney's baby, nor hold her in her arms, or be a part of her life other than by photographs and loving memories. She will never see her other daughters walk down the aisle or have their own children. Why? Simply because she didn't want to be with you anymore. Now I'm going to remind you what you've done to your family. You have tarnished the Dorner name that your son has to bear for the rest of his life. The embarrassment and shame that you have caused your children is terrible. You will never walk your daughter down the aisle. You will never see your own grandchildren be born and grow. But it was with great satisfaction that I tell you, you will also become a forgotten, shameful memory from their lives. No photos, no stories, no love, just a monster. I'm a very spiritual woman, and I have struggled with my feelings about what I want to say to you, but I am also human. And I will say that with all clarity that I hate you with every fiber in my being. And I damn you to hell for the rest of your life. I hope that every day that you're in jail is as horrific of a day as it can possibly be, and that you would suffer immense pain and suffering every day with the memories of this disgusting act you've done to my Debbie. I hope that at the end of your life, which will be much, much sooner than you think, Brian, that you see Debbie's beautiful face and you remember these words, my voice, and my prediction for you of the truth. And until then, I don't find justice and Debbie does not find peace. I ask the judge for one wish to be granted to our family, and that is that every year on Debbie's birthday and every year on her death day, that he is to remain in solitary confinement for a full 24 hours so he can sit and do nothing but think about what he has done to our family.
Thank you.
Ed and I are 2 years apart. We grew up together as sisters at my grandparents' house. I always looked up to her. I have great memories of making paper boat rain, playing hours of basketball, Barbies, Atari, card games, riding bikes. After high school, I moved in with her. As her family got bigger, she absolutely loved the holidays and cooking enough food for an army. Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve were the best dinners. Halloween, we would always have funny masks and scary music. She enjoyed camping, music, dancing, casinos, Florida vacations. I want to make it perfectly clear, this animal took a mother, a wife, an only daughter from her father, cousin, and my sister, and friend to so many. She loves her girls with a fierce passion. Who do you think you are to take that away? I want you to rot, Brian. If I had the chance, I would strap your ass in that chair myself and pull the lever. I've wished for your death since April 12th. You do not deserve to see your kids or even speak to them, but I'm sure they're embarrassed by you by now. You are nothing but a loser, and I just cannot wait for you to get in prison, where I hear they don't like men like you. I hope you have to see her every time you close your eyes, and she haunts you every day of your life.
Donald Moore, Debbie's father, you are a sick, evil person. You are going to rot in prison all your life. And I hope you live to be 100 years old. It is impossible to explain to this court how much hurt you have caused to my family, to friends, and me. I'm a walking zombie now. I'm lost. I'm empty. I fight every day to get up and go to the bathroom. I don't want to do nothing. I sleep 16 hours a day. He took my life too. You are going to hell on earth in prison. I hope you enjoy living with sick, evil murderers, rapists you should get along great with. You are the worst example for your children as a father figure. You are going to be raped and beat up many times till you die. And when you die, you then get to go see your father, the devil. I'm glad you didn't die when you cut your wrist. I want you to suffer in prison. Then, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Enjoy your new home and your many boyfriends while you're in there. Honorable Judge, I beg you not to let him see daylight again. I ask you for the maximum sentence. He committed the worst crime just about on this planet. And his sorry means absolutely nothing. You loved your kids, and you still did this to them. Your sorries and your love and all this, it's all meaningless. You're a nothing, nobody, loser, evil son of a bitch. And I also would like to ask if he can be put on lockdown 1 day or 2 times a year so he can lay in there and think about it.
Gretzky, on behalf of the state.
This court is very familiar with the facts of this case, been outlined at the change of plea by multiple people and in the PSR in detail. Whatever the nature of the conversation that precipitated the defendant's decision, he made a decision to kill the victim. The victim went down the hallway of the home to the bathroom, to the bedroom. The defendant waited in the kitchen, then came into the bedroom, followed her, strangled her first from behind till she went limp, and then strangled her with both of his bare hands until she died. This was a completely senseless crime. There's no reason, no rationale that can put what happened here into a lens that makes sense. Not one reason that has been given. Not the telling him that he couldn't go on a trip, not having an argument about the amount of time that he's able to spend with her, not financial strain, not familial obligations. Not one of these factors puts this crime into a perspective that makes any sense. The victim, as has been stated, did not and could not have seen this coming. In the evidence, there were text messages, evidence of instances where the defendant and the victim had previously said to each other that the relationship was over. This was a strained relationship at times. There were texts where the defendant would tell the victim it was over, the victim would tell the defendant it was over, but they stayed together. So when the victim brought up issues about the relationship to him on that day, that was not a shock to him. There was nothing about bringing up those issues that would have led the victim to believe that she was in harm's way. There was nothing about the defendant's previous behaviors that could have led her to think that she was in the way of danger. She had no reason to think her life was in danger. Yet the defendant had made a decision to kill her. I do not agree with the notion that this was a snap decision. Again, there was that time while the defendant was in the kitchen and the victim was in the bathroom and then the bedroom. There was so much time while he was attacking her. This murder was not committed with a gunshot or with a stab wound. One pull of a trigger, one stab. Those are actions that take a second, that can be lethal, that can be irrevocable in just a second. This murder was committed over numerous minutes. He strangled her in multiple positions for those minutes. Court is aware of the great number of strangulation cases that occur and the harm that occurs from them, even serious physical harm. But to cause death through strangulation takes time. A snap decision could have stopped his conduct, but the conduct itself was not a snap decision. He could have prevented her death if he had just stopped. But he continued, focused on his intention to kill her for all of those minutes. Finally, Your Honor, it has been said that this is out of character for the defendant. Character can be defined as one of the attributes or features that make up and distinguish an individual. Character can also be the aggregate of distinctive qualities of an individual. The defendant is not a young man. He's not susceptible to the impulsiveness of young men. Nor is he a man who has lived a life that doesn't understand the greater repercussions of one's actions on others, or the compounding impact that death has. Taking responsibility and perhaps even regret may be in his character, but this senseless violence, this murder, is also his character. Capability of doing this has been mentioned. All are capable of doing this. He murdered her with his bare hands, but all do not do this. This is the defendant's character. It is one of the attributes he carries. It is part of the aggregate of the qualities that make up who he is. There's no amount of time, no amount of law-abiding years that negate such a violent, cruel act as the one that he committed, no matter at what point in life that act is committed. Therefore, the state is asking the court to sentence the defendant to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Thank you. Well, this court has reviewed the pre-sentence report and investigation. I have considered the victim impact statements that have been received by the court. Read them all. And then sentencing memorandum that was filed. Letters on behalf of the defendant, I've read those as well. I have considered everything that's been said here in court today by Mr. Watson, the defendant himself, the prosecutor, and all the family members that are here and spoke on behalf of the facts and circumstances of the offense involved, the nature of the offense, the nature of the conduct. All this is considered by this court in light of the purposes and principles of felony sentencing, which are set forth in 29 and 2911 of our Ohio Revised Code. As for the factors in 29, 29, 12, factors indicating the conduct is more or less serious, the court does note that the defendant's relationship with the victim facilitated the offense. This was someone he supposedly loved, was in a relationship with, lived with her, facilitated this offense. The victim herself obviously suffered serious physical harm, but in these types of cases, there's more than one victim. Family members are also victims, and they have suffered serious psychological harm as a result of the defendant's conduct, and that makes it more serious. Other relevant factors indicating it's more serious is the very nature of the conduct itself. The circumstances surrounding how this murder occurred. As the prosecutor alluded to, this is the first strangulation, suffocation case I've ever had. I've been doing this for 34 years. Most murders involve a weapon, firearm. The prosecutor alluded to this as well. But those cases, it's horrible, obviously. I'm not trying to minimize those types of cases one bit. And using a firearm is certainly very serious. In fact, we have laws that make it more serious because firearms are used. But as the prosecutor said, those are split-second decisions that are made. You pull the trigger, you can't put the bullet back in the chain, you can't put the bullet back. This case, though, he engaged in the conduct and started, and he could have put it back. He could have pulled it back. He could have stopped at any time. This took a period of time in order for him to accomplish what he intended to accomplish. So some split-second decision where you lost your cool, whatever the case may be. In other cases, you stab someone, you pull a trigger, you can't do anything about it after that. You could have. You could have stopped. You could have stopped at multiple points. But you didn't. You kept on going. You kept on going until you accomplished your objective. Did nothing after that in regards to her. You didn't call for help. You didn't call 911. Who knows what they could have done. But their intervention would have interfered with what your objective was, which was to kill her. And the nature in which you did it, and the circumstances surrounding it, make it more serious than what we normally deal with in these circumstances. No factors indicating the conduct is less serious than normal. As for recidivism factors, you're sorry, yes you're sorry, and you accepted responsibility for committing the actual physical act that resulted in Ms. Moore's death. In regards to your explanation, it's not very clear. You told multiple people when this happened that you did it because she broke up with you. But you made it abundantly clear to the probation department that she didn't break up with you. Well, why'd you do it? What led you to do this if it wasn't because she was ending the relationship? But you, for whatever reason, wouldn't acknowledge that to the probation department. You never offered an explanation to the probation department, so why'd you do it? You made it clear that it wasn't because she didn't break up with you, though you told everybody that day. You told your ex-wife when you called on the phone, when she showed up, you told our police officers, I think even someone at the hospital, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But you won't admit to that now. As for factors indicating recidivism is less likely, the court does note the defendant doesn't have any prior history. I think he has got a misdemeanor conviction from 20 years ago, perhaps. That's it. And I will note that that's extremely rare. People that are sitting in that chair usually have a history. So he has led a law-abiding life, which is one of the factors I'm required to consider for a significant number of years, basically his entire life. This offense carries with it mandatory prison term. Prison is certainly consistent with the purposes and principles of sentencing. I'm not even able to consider community control sanctions, but then it's not amenable. Therefore, it'll be the sentence of this court that on count 1, in charge of aggravated murder, defendant serve a term of life in prison with parole eligibility after serving 30 full years of imprisonment. You get credit for 223 days you've already served. The rest of the indictment is hereby dismissed. In regards to the request from the victims to have them serve holiday, or not holidays, but anniversaries, whatever, I'm not allowed to do that. I have no authority to do that. I've done it before, quite frankly, and have been rejected and told I can't do it. So I'm not permitted to do that. You're ordered to pay all costs incurred in this action. You're ordered to register, as I told you initially, as a violent offender. In regards to the restitution requests, I have read all of those, and again, the law does not allow me to order restitution for in the specific reasons that restitution was requested. These types of cases, I can order funeral bills or funeral expenses. That wasn't requested at all. The other items.
Brian Dorner, a 3-year-old man with no prior criminal history, sat in that courtroom and heard the weight of what he did crash down on him, one voice at a time. On April 12th, 2024, he made a choice, not a split-second one, a sustained, deliberate one. He followed Deborah Moore into her bedroom, her own home, the home she had shared with him, and he strangled her, not once, twice, with his bare hands, until she was gone. And then he did nothing to save her. What followed in that courtroom was something no script could fully capture. 3 daughters, Courtney, Caitlin, and Paige, stood up and tore open their grief in front of a judge. A killer, and the world. A pregnant daughter who will raise her child without a grandmother. A youngest daughter, just 24 years old, haunted by nightmares she can't escape. A middle daughter who once accepted this man into her mother's life and now carries the unbearable weight of that decision. Deborah's father, her cousins, her sisters, all of them victims. The judge sentenced Brian Dorner to life in prison, with no possibility of parole for 30 full years. Was it justice? That's not a simple answer. Justice would mean Deborah Moore walks back through her front door. Justice would mean her daughters still have someone to call. It would mean a grandmother gets to hold her first grandchild. That kind of justice doesn't exist in a courtroom. What does exist is accountability. And today, accountability showed up. If this case moved you, if you believe that victims' voices deserve to be heard, share this video. Because Deborah Moore was more than a case number. She was a mother, a best friend, and the heart of her family. And she deserved so much better. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because every story we cover is someone's reality.